Recently, the US kill zone has become a hot topic, but in fact, Australia also has its own real kill zone. That's why the economic cycles designed in this country are always able to precisely harvest a large group of people. Many Chinese who have just arrived in Australia might say they don't feel it yet, because we tend to have some built-in protective traits. For example, we like to save money. In fact, I feel that most of the Chinese people around me are still quite far from this kill zone. So who is actually closest to this knife, to this kill zone? Let me give you two recent examples from my own experience. The first is a Chinese person who wanted to take a shortcut to success, and the other is a seemingly glamorous local white elite. Let's talk about the first case. A few days ago, a young guy born after 1995 who had just gotten his PR came to see me. Right from the start, he was full of professional jargon. Brother Ju Yi, I want to do rent vesting. I'll rent an apartment in the city centre, then buy a house in the outer suburbs to rent out, using rent to cover the mortgage. I've watched all your videos, and when I heard this, I thought, that's a pretty good idea. Nothing wrong with this approach. Rent vesting really is a shortcut for many young people to get ahead. I think it might even be the only solution. At the same time, I thought to myself, this guy really gets it. My deal is basically secured. But then I helped him do a borrowing capacity test just to see how much he could actually borrow, and I was completely stunned. His CSV showed that he was carrying a 60,000 Australian dollars personal loan. So I called him up and asked, hey man, what's going on with this debt? You do not even own a house yet. And he told me very proudly, oh Joe, I just bought a used C63 AMG. That is a Mercedes, probably a mid to high-end performance car. He said, I just got my PR, so I had to treat myself. He said he was celebrating, saying, now I can count myself as half an Australian. At that moment, I just lost it emotionally. I was so frustrated, like hating iron for not becoming steel. He bought such an expensive car, which is just a consumer good, and it was even a used one. Most importantly, it was all money he borrowed. So I asked him, did you spend 80 or 90,000 on this thing? Because you borrowed 60,000, right? So how much do you actually have saved up for your house deposit? He said he only managed to save 50,000. Just listen to that. He only saved 50,000 for his deposit. And on top of that, he still had a 60,000 car loan. I was honestly so angry at that point that I got a headache. I told him, bro, this isn't rent investing. This is just running naked and sprinting ahead. But he wouldn't accept it. He said, a car is about face. Is the C63 a V8 or a V12? That was his exact wording, a swan song. Then he said he'd get promoted. I started to explain to him, do you even know how the bank does the math? That 60,000 car loan of yours directly slashes your borrowing capacity by at least 300,000 Australian dollars. Originally, you could have bought a house with a potential value of 700,000, or we could have even helped you build a granny flat and you could have earned some cash flow. But just because of this car you bought to celebrate your PR, now you cannot even afford a decent apartment. For him, this C63 is just excessive, premature spending. That was his breaking point. Now, let's talk about the second case. This one is a local lawyer. You might think only Chinese people are like this, but that's not true. Let me tell you about a local Aussie I know, a lawyer. We've known each other for quite a while, and I consider him part of the elite class. He's